I was like, I'm trying to decide if I want to expose something on this podcast or not.
This is the show where you come to do it. This is where we do the tea.
Yeah, do it. Spit it out, girl. Hey, everybody, I'm Tim Miller.
I'm Cameron Kasky, and this is FY Pod, the fun young show over here at the Bulwark. We're getting to the bottom of Gen Z, and we are doing it with fervor. Today, we are joined by activist, advocate, target of the left and right, the very, very brilliant and wonderful and controversial Olivia Julianna.
Olivia, I'm standing in for Cameron this week as having not done my research on you. So just tell me about you. You know, what are your interests? You know, what's your life story?
Yeah.
Are you bisexual or not?
Yes, I am. Happy Pride, everyone.
They're all bisexual.
Always.
Tim says all the guests are bisexual, and then they're like, a quarter of the guests have been bisexual.
Shocking number of the guests have been bisexual, a disproportionate towards their existence in society. I'm sorry, Olivia. Anyway, tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm happy to fit the pattern. I am a content creator. I hate saying the word influencer, but it's the truth. But I've been making political content online since the summer of 2020. Started when I was 17 years old, and my farmhouse in rural Texas, where it literally took me 15 minutes to upload a TikTok because my internet connection was so horrible.
What town? Shout out your town.
Shout out to Needville, Texas, where nobody knows where it is.
I'm Googling. Keep going.
It really crazy town, but a small town. Everyone knows everyone. There's weird news about it. But I grew up there and I started making TikTok content when I was 17 about politics, conservative Christian Baptist family. And then, as I got older, I was like, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff I'm seeing. I want to do something about it. I want to go out and march. My dad told me, if you go march, don't come home. And I was like, okay, great. So I'm going to start making social media content instead. And then I just done that for the last 5 years to the ire of people on the left and the right, because I am unfortunately a big old liberal. Capital L liberal, not shy about that. I believe in bipartisanship and getting along with everyone who we can. And, that displeases some people for me to do that, especially considering I am a larger 5'11", big old Texas woman. Most notably...
Everything's bigger in Texas, they say.
Everything is bigger in Texas. Most notably, my two big run-ins have been with Congressman Matt Gaetz, who decided to come after me when I was a teenager, which seems to be a proclivity of his.
We have a video of Matt Gaetz saying some stuff that you kind of owned him on.
Have you watched these pro-abortion, pro-murder rallies? The people are just disgusting. Why is it that the women with the least likelihood of getting pregnant are the ones most worried about having abortions?
There's some filler there.
Nobody wants to impregnate you if you look like a thumb. These people are odious on the inside and out. They're 5'2", 350 pounds, and they're like, give me my abortions or I'll get up and march and protest. And I'm thinking, march? You look like you got ankles weaker than the legal reasoning behind Roe versus Wade.
Oof.
A few of them need to get up and march. They need to get up and march for an hour a day, swing those arms, get the blood pumping, maybe mix in a salad.
How do we know he was talking about Olivia?
Because he responded by posting a photo of me on his Twitter. Just
oh, got it.
Unprovoked, or posted this picture of me on Twitter. And I was like, okay, you know what? You are an alleged predator. I can get made fun of, but if I'm going to get made fun of by someone, it's not going to be you. So I started fundraising for abortion funds. And within a week, we raised $2 million, about a month and a half after Roe v. Wade was overturned. And this right here, this pink thing right here, is where I was named one of Bloomberg's 50 people that defined the year 2022 because Matt Gaetz decided to talk about me, and I raised a bunch of money. So thanks, Matt Gaetz.
Can you comment on, why don't we just go around the circle and everybody says one thing about Matt Gaetz's looks right now? Okay, ready, go. Cameron, you go first.
Matt Gaetz looks like he's from Florida.
Oh,
it's a good one.
Good.
Still one.
Yeah, how about you, Olivia? You go next.
Find a better injector.
Find a better injector. That's pretty good. For me, I guess I would say two things. One is not really an insult, just an observation of fact. I've known Matt for a long time. Matt's sister and I used to work together. So I saw Matt in the mid 2010s, often in person, and he looks completely different. Like he has had a total facial reconstruction. So, sometimes these are accusations that are thrown about. I do not see how in the natural world Matt Gaetz could look today like he did back then. And in particular, I don't know if he's going to do the reconstruction, why he doesn't focus on the forehead. To me, Matt Gaetz and Rubio, for Rubio, it's his ears. For Gaetz, it's his forehead. Like for every lie they tell on behalf of Donald Trump, it increases in size by like a centimeter. It's kind of like a Pinocchio situation that he's having with his forehead. And it seems to me that if he's going to pay somebody, he's got a very rich wife. If he's going to pay somebody to reconstruct his face, he might want to take care of that.
Where does Matt Gaetz' wife money come from?
Unclear exactly what the broader family money is and what her money is, but her brother is Palmer Luckey. Does that name ring a bell to you at all?
Palmer Luckey?
Yeah.
No, that sounds like a famous golfer.
It does sound like a fake name. Palmer Luckey's a real person. I had lunch with him once. He was probably the most disgusting person I've ever eaten lunch with. Have you ever eaten lunch with somebody who's like, it was like at a Japanese place, there's maybe a ramen, he's slurping, and he's like picking his nose, and like the food is coming out of his mouth. He was a very poor eater. And Palmer is also a genius and made the goggles. What are the goggles that Facebook bought it from him?
Oculus.
Yeah. Oculus. Yeah. He invented the Oculus goggles. And he also funded the Pepe's for Trump meme army in 2016. Anyway, it's his sister, Palmer's sister, and Matt. It was kind of like a meeting of the minds of the five families of MAGA. They got together and had a marriage.
And
so
is Gaetz doing anything? Because he was like appointed to something by Trump, and then he got driven out, I think, for being
he was appointed
sex
to Attorney
pervert.
General, pulled out. New for him. I talked to him about this in Arizona. I was like, why didn't you gut it out? And he told me that like John Curtis of Utah told him that he would let his children die before he votes for Matt Gaetz to be Attorney General. And I was like, I don't know. These guys seem to be confirming everybody. And they confirmed Hegseth, so it feels like they would have confirmed him. But now he's a competitor of yours, Cameron. He's in the content creator space. He has a show on OAN. And so, yeah, I mean, he's kind of a competitor of ours.
Makes sense. It's the typical pipeline, right? Right-wing politician, pedophilia scandal, content creator. I feel like that's
Ephebophilia. Ephebophilia. Let's be.
What aphilia?
Ephebophilia?
What is that?
It's like 14 to 17. That's what all those guys say in defense of themselves. I'm making fun of them. I'm not defending it. They're always like, actually, it's ephebophilia. Okay, the pedophiles are the priests going after the 6-year-olds. I was just looking for a nubile young woman.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, I was doing a debate, which I only did because I had nothing else to do that day in Las Vegas, with some guy named Fabian Frankel, I believe his name is, who's like a right-wing content creator, and he was talking to me about how leftists are trying to legalize pedophilia. And I was like, let's right now do a count of how many elected officials have gotten caught sleeping with minors. And this is trivial, but let's see which party affiliation they all had. Anyway, Olivia, I want to get back into your origin story. What was your Joker lib moment? Like, when did you start putting on the liberal clown makeup?
Like what pushed me to start making content, or what pushed me to start being a provocateur of the far left?
Por qué no los dos?
Por qué no los dos? For me, it really, really was, the impending Trump presidency in 2020. That's what I was concerned about. But for me, it really was George Floyd, because when I was younger, my parents worked at a children's home, and so I had 8 foster brothers, many of whom were Black. And so from these very formative years of, I think, age 12 to 15, I grew up in this house having brothers who were Black. And so watching all of this happen, I was just so disgusted, particularly by the reaction of so many people in my community justifying the murder of George Floyd and of Breonna Taylor, that I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, we just all witnessed what happened. How could you be okay with this? And so that was kind of what pushed me to start making content online, was that in particular. And I kind of went into this weird like TikTok rabbit hole a lot of young content creators go, which is where you start, and then the more exposure you get more and more left because you get kind of caught up in this echo chamber for a really long time. And I understand it now. Everyone is mad at the world. It seems like nothing's working. It seems like nothing's getting done. So it's really easy to kind of fall into these pipelines. But as I started working in politics more legitimately, I realized how silly so many of the arguments that I had made were about, like, well, why isn't this getting done? Well, it's not getting done because the state legislature is a Republican supermajority, or it's not getting done because we don't have enough seats to bypass the filibuster. Like, those kinds of things kind of made me start to realize how nonsensical so much of the arguments that I was making were. And also my upbringing of being around so many conservatives all the time, I had to kind of stop and ask myself, especially once I started doing more campaign work, is why am I so dead set against having any kind of conversation with someone who disagrees with me? Especially watching, Biden have so many big landmark bipartisan pieces of legislation. I was like, I need to grow up and stop being such a baby and complaining about everything and actually focus on trying to get shit done. And that's kind of what turned me back to more of like just a normie liberal. And because I had gone from being pretty openly left to being more liberal, it pissed a lot of people off. And that kind of spun into me being this caricature of like a DNC shill of like, she never criticizes the administration, which like I did many times. And then me speaking at the DNC last year was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back of like, all right, that's it, it's official, she's on payroll, which I'm not. But
I have a lot of questions, but I
then.
have a more important acute matter. Now, how did you get invited to speak at the DNC convention? Because my invite must have been lost in the mail. I do pretty good. I'm a pretty good speaker, I think, and nobody asked me.
You and Kinzinger were like a package deal.
I guess maybe they figured like the box was checked with Kinzinger, maybe, and they didn't need me. I don't know. Though.
They had their DEI Republican already. They could only handle one.
How'd you get the invite? Was it like a personal invite from Kamala Harris? She called
No,
you?
I wish. No. I got an email. I got an email that was like, we'd like to invite you to do this. It had been a dream of mine for a really long time. I don't know if you can see it behind me. I have Ann Richards and Barbara Jordan stuff behind me here. It was a big dream of mine. So when I got the email, I was just like immediately like, yes, I want to do this. And it was really surreal. But I think it just came from, I had done a lot of partnerships with the White House and with members on the Hill through content creation over the last few years. I did several with Kamala Harris when she was vice president about reproductive rights because of all the abortion fundraising and all of the different abortion advocacy work I'd done. And so I became kind of like one of like the Gen Z young women. And if you go and you ask yourself like, who are the Gen Z young women faces of the Democratic Party? It's really hard to name a handful of people. Like there's me, and I think there's a couple other who make content, but their content isn't really strictly political. Mine's strictly political. Mm-hmm. And so I think that that's kind of part of the reason why it was me, and it's been me for a really long time, is because it's really hard to be a young woman who has a platform for this because you just get attacked so relentlessly. If you don't have the mental acuity for it, then you just can't handle it.
Okay, so
it's
Olivia,
difficult.
I can't not start to give you a little bit of shit for this because we gave our dearest, darlingest, cutie patootie Harry Sisson some shit for it. And
Give me shit for it.
Yeah. So of all, I've been following you closely online since I think before we met and got lunch together over a year ago now at the Annoying Content Creator Conference, which we've had so many guests who were there. I was talking to Harry when he was on the show. Obviously, the main thing we wanted to talk about was Fuckboygate. But I also said to Harry...
Snapchats. Did Harry ever send you a little Snapchat? You ever get a little snap from Harry?
I did not. No.
All right.
Well, I was talking to Harry on the show. We were having a great time, chopping it up. And I said, Harry, you were posting a lot with Mr. Joe Brandon. And not only that, you were posting with him pretty far into the presidency, pretty far into him being like, I'm not going to drop out. I'm actually going to stay in the race. I'm the Gen Z president, youngest president ever. I'm doing great. I'm super sharp. How long were you standing Joe? How long were you of the belief that Joe was the right guy for the moment and that he shouldn't step down? And at what point do you think you turned? Like, did you hold out all the way to the end?
I held out all the way to the end, and I'll tell you why. For me,
I was liking you up until now,
I'll
Olivia.
I'll give you my reasoning.
Okay.
In my ideal world, in my ideal world, Joe Biden stepped down from running for re-election when Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer and all of the other older House leadership decided we're not going to run for leadership again. In my ideal world, that's what happened. But that's not what happened. And the reason why I was so adamant about Biden not dropping out is because he told us he wasn't going to do it. He said, I'm not going to do it. You're not going to convince me.
Politicians never lie about things like that.
Fair enough. But the people who I was talking to behind the scenes were telling me the same thing.
Many people are saying, a lot of people tell me.
So in my head, if someone who had been very grateful and who touted the accomplishments of the president for so long, if I very suddenly was like, you're the wrong person for this, you need to get out of this. Number one, I don't know how genuine that would have come off of as. I feel like it probably would have come off as very bandwagony. But number two, I was concerned that if he didn't drop out, which is what they were saying was going to happen, all of these people who had been his biggest cheerleaders suddenly became people who no longer supported him. And that was my concern, is that we would just have this circular firing squad. Joe Biden, whose reputation about being stubborn is longer than I've been alive, would have had the whole party turn against him. And then we would have to go out and convince the same people who we just told he wasn't fit to do this anymore, that he is fit to do this now. So that's why I held out to the very end. And when he said, I'm out, I'm done, that was it for me. All right, time to get behind Kamala. Because bottom line is I want to win elections. And if that means getting behind Joe Biden, that means getting behind Joe Biden. If that means getting behind Kamala Harris, that means getting behind Kamala Harris. And that's why as soon as he made the announcement, I was ready to go. And I started and I went.
No. I mean, that theory of the case is like premised on the notion that it would have mattered what influencers had been saying and then podcasters had been saying about Joe Biden had he stayed in the race, when the actual thing that would have mattered had he stayed in the race was the fact that he couldn't talk. So to me, that would have been kind of the prime issue, not like how people reacted to him. And like that was kind of really for me, once it was revealed that he can't really talk, that became kind of a problem.
The night for me where I really started to get concerned was, I think, the same night for a lot of people, which was the debate.
Sure.
I was actually supposed to be in Atlanta for the debate in the spin room. Yeah, I was supposed to be there.
My dreams.
Well, instead of being there,
I do have to tell you, it was kind of fun. I'm sad you weren't there because I did kind of have fun. Because look, I was pro Joe. Anybody for Trump. I'm a never Trumper. It's right there in the name, right? So I was pro whatever. But at the same time, I'm a former Republican, got a little bit more leeway. I'd make fun of the Democrats from time to time. And I did have fun. The only positive part of the night that I had was teasing the official DNC influencers who were there, like you would have been one of them, that crew. I was going around the spin room being like, hey man, hey Luke Beasley, what are you putting out tonight? What's the content? What's the content plan for
Tim,
tonight? And it was, so it would have been a tough night for you, I think.
Let me tell you, instead of being at the debate, I was at Biden HQ the night of the debate. So,
had to be dark.
Yeah, what was it like in Biden HQ after the great melting?
So, I have pictures of me standing there, staring at the TV, being like, okay.
It's Jover.
I was like, I'm trying to decide if I want to expose something on this podcast or not.
This is the show where you come to do it. This is where we do the tea.
Yeah, do it. Spit it out, girl. People appreciate authenticity.
In Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's new book.
Ooh, I haven't read that. I'm not a masochist.
I haven't read it either, and I won't read it. There is a recounting of a pro-Biden influencer who became so stressed out that they laid on the floor. That was me.
Oh, sure, you need to rest.
And I have a photo of me laying on the floor at Biden HQ that night.
Did you get a cold compress?
No, but here's the thing. It was actually after the debate. It was not during the debate. It was after the debate, and it was more so because I was exhausted. I've never said this publicly before, ever, to anyone. So it really is me telling this on the show.
Breaking news here on FY Pod, baby.
breaking news. And they could say that it was someone else, but I'm pretty confident that it was me. As soon as the debate was over, I walked out of the viewing room, walked into another room, and I made a video that effectively said, like, look, this has never been about Donald Trump or Joe Biden. This is about the Supreme Court. I was like, this is about the Supreme Court. I was like, this is about codifying Roe. This is about raising minimum wage. And we could have a sentient potato in the White House as long as they know how to use that pen and we got the Congress we need. Then
You
we're
were
on
in
a good
favor of
track.
the auto pen. You wanted the auto pen president.
Use the auto pen. I don't care.
Okay.
That was
my
something
spin.
like when everybody was talking about how Biden wasn't actually calling the shots of the administration, there were people shadow running the administration and everything. I saw that and I was like, I can only fucking hope so. Like the scarier headline to me was that Joe Biden was calling all the shots because I don't think anybody would have fucking understood what he was saying.
Well, what I will say is there was a group of us, we spent about an hour with him in December before he was, leaving office. It was a pretty surreal moment. We got to sit in the Roosevelt room. There's about 10 of us. And talk to administration officials and then go into the office. That's where this picture's from. And go into the Oval Office and take pictures of them. But he stood there and talked to us for about, I want to say he was in there for about 30 minutes. And the general consensus that I've taken away from this, and because people will say that, I was part of the cover up. I'm like, okay, first of all, yeah, me, the 22-year-old influencer from Houston, I have all the power, all the influence to make these decisions, sure. But the consensus I took away from it as someone who, both my grandparents had Alzheimer's and dementia, I don't think he's gone. I just think he's super old. Like, I think he is super, super old. And I think that the way everything ended, I think it was just so sad. And I feel bad for him. I feel bad for Kamala Harris. I think, it's tragic how it all ended up.
It was his fault, so I don't feel bad for him. I do feel bad for Kamala, and I agree with you. There wasn't a cover up.
It was really emotional.
They all thought it.
It was really emotional for me when Biden was running, not only because I was so furious about it, but because this is not me trying to be like morbidly funny. This is dead ass. My grandfather was dying at the time, and cancer was bringing him. It was just really destroying his health, as cancer famously does. And he was talking a little bit, his voice was kind of going away. He was losing a lot of weight. And as I was watching my grandfather leave this world, I had two takeaways. Number one, this reminds me of Joe Biden. Number two, but my grandpa, who I can barely hear the way that his voice sounds better than Joe. Like, he sounded more mentally sharp and alive than Joe. But what my next question for you is sort of like, emotionally, now that we're looking back, hindsight's 2024, like no matter what you were doing in terms of your advocacy and your platform and everything, when did you mentally realize like, oh, this is bad?
Oh, I'll tell you what it was. I knew it was, the debate, that was like the moment where I was like, oh, this is not good. I think for me, the moment I definitively knew we were going to lose, where I was like, it's over, was actually the first day of early voting in Harris County. Because I was doing work around the Senate race at the time, and I was looking at the turnout numbers in the different precincts we had, and when I saw where the Democratic precincts were in Harris County and Houston, I was like, that's it. I was like, this is the first day of early voting, and these are the numbers we're getting. Republican areas were through the roof. I was like, that's it. Like, we're gonna lose. Not only did I know we were gonna lose the Senate race, but I was like, if this is how Harris County is turning out for Kamala Harris, that's it. Like, there's
it's
there's
literally
no coming
called
back.
Harris County.
And Beyonce
The
was
margins in 2020, Joe Biden won Harris County by 13 points. In 2024, Kamala Harris won it by 5.5.
Well, everybody,
Insane.
comment down below when you realized it was over, because I've said this before on the show, but I straight up thought she was going to win well into election day, and I call that white male privilege. Olivia, I really want to get into what I think is the most important part of this interview to me. This is what sort of we had talked about you coming on the show. This is what made me say, now is the time, which is you were getting a lot of smoke a couple weeks ago for doing a video called something along the lines of how to win young men. And people on the left and right were trampling you for it. And I confess, I did think that the title of the video and the way it was laid out, I thought it was pretty cringe. But I think that a lot of the attacks you were getting, some of them were kind of funny because it was like, LOL, why are you talking about how to win young men? And then a lot of them were just fat phobia and misogyny dressed like criticism. So I'm wondering what that experience was like for you, and then how you think we should win young men.
Yeah, well, the cringiness aspect, I'm not going to fight you on that one there. I did not edit or upload the video. I appeared on a friend's podcast. And
Sometimes it happens. It's so
Yeah.
rude. People, like, I get hit with this a lot on, like, old Jeb shit, where, like, something turns into a meme, and I'm like, you know what, y'all? You fucking put up 8,000 videos on behalf of a candidate and have none of them be cringe. All right? Can you just leave poor Jeb alone? Can you just get off his back? You know, he's trying his best out there. We're all cringe. Everybody's cringe at times.
We are.
So it happens. It happens to the best of us. I've cringed.
everything
Not that
does.
often, but
and
sometimes.
I don't, yeah, I mean, it happens to everyone. I don't really let it get to me. But the thing is the substance of what I'm saying, a lot of people can disagree with it. That's fine. The substance of what I was saying is, like, young men are not ideologically rigidly conservative. Like, the driving factor for how young men vote is economics, period. It just is. And it ties into other social factors. Like, it's people think about, well, why is immigration such a top issue for young men? And my theory of the case is it's a scarcity mindset. Republicans often, they pass this policy that makes it impossible for young men to reach the societal standards that are set for them of, be the breadwinner, be the provider, buy the house, get the job. And then they have to find someone to blame that on because they can't say that we're the reason why it's hard for you to do those things. And so that's kind of my theory of the case is it's an economic thing. A lot of, young men who voted for Trump, they're pro-choice. A lot of them, they agreed with the principle of Black Lives Matter, that police brutality is bad, that civil rights are important. And boy, the right took that and ran with it. And they tried to paint me out to be this kind of like out of touch, who's this fat chick trying to tell us how to win young men? And it was everywhere. It was on The Five. It was on Jesse Waters. Donald Trump Jr. was talking about it. Matt Walsh. And
Did they engage on the merits in any way that was, I mean, like, just be as kind to them as possible? Like, was there any point they had, or was it just like, no men are going to listen to her because she's ugly? Was that just their only message?
I think that was the basis of the point. There was a couple of YouTubers who watched the full video and reacted to it. And to their credit, they would say she's right about this or she's wrong about that. But the pretty much gist of it was just why would any young man care what she has to say? And my response to that, by and large, was just, you guys don't actually give a shit about young men. Because here you have a woman on the left who checks all of these, fruit basket boxes y'all like to talk about. I'm Mexican, I'm bisexual. And here I am taking the stance of we should care more about young men. I've written articles about this. We should care more about young men. We should stop demonizing young men. We should stop talking to young men the way that we do about well, you're a young white dude. You shouldn't have an opinion. And here I am advocating against that on my platform, and I'm getting attacked because I dared to advocate for young guys. It makes no sense. So I responded to them and I was like, look, y'all don't actually give a shit about young men. And so let me ask you this. If I lose another 65 pounds, will you actually increase their wages? Will you actually make it possible for them to buy a house? Will you help their mental health care services? Because if that's the case, I'll put on my tennis shoes and hit the track right now. But if it's not the case and you're just going to find another reason to deflect, then answer my damn question. And I kept following up because they kept making fun of the way I look about she said, God forbid, I said I love frat guys. They played a clip of me on Fox News saying I love frat guys. And I just kept responding with, and I do. I love frat guys.
No shame in that game. Not my type, but whatever floats your boat.
Everyone has a preference. I love frat guys.
I want to try something on for size with you, Olivia, and I want you to see what you think about this, because this might also get you in trouble with the left and Cameron and the DSA socialists. There's the left group also will say that the real issue with young men is these economic issues, right? If we put forth a coherent economic platform of populist economics, then the young men will come for you. like the Pied Piper. And I just like kind of don't know if that's true. I don't like. I watched Pete's interview with Andrew Schultz, and I've been watching a lot of Theo Vaughn interviews lately with him with JD, and like I don't think most of these bros are ideological at all. Like I don't think that Andrew Schultz or Theo Vaughn have like really any ideological difference with Kamala that's meaningful, like besides some immigration stuff on the margins, or maybe they probably, they are like, but it's more like, it's more vibes, right? Like they're more like, oh, I want to care more about cops and being able to say whatever the fuck I want, and she cares about like checking the identity boxes, right? Like it's not like really about policies. It's like vibes. And I kind of think that the Dems just need somebody with bro-y vibes. Like, I really think that that's kind of it. And I don't know that it's ideology at all. What do you make of that?
I think it's a combination of both. I think the broy vibes thing is a big, I think it's a big part of it, and I'll tell you why I think that's true. And a lot of my follow-up to the Fox News stuff, I would say, like, yeah, I love frat guy. Should I also apologize for liking whiskey and cigars too? Like, and I just kind of leaned into it.
You like cigars?
I do, unfortunately. I
weird.
do. And I just leaned into it. And you know how I know that was the right thing to do? I had Barstool Sports contributors follow me and DM me and tell me the way I was responding was the right way to go about it.
Nice.
I can't tell you how.
We can't tell who it is.
I'm not
going
to expose them. I'm not going to expose them. I'm not going to expose anyone. I want to get them in a bind.
Right.
But I also can't tell you how many young men I had reach out to me to tell me, like, hey, I actually think that what you said was right. Like, these are the things that me and my friends talk about. And so I think it's a combination of both. But I think a big part of it, and this is kind of the portion where a lot of the people who reached out saying they agreed with me, and this was the portion they said, is I feel like the Democratic Party, in trying to be inclusionary, has made ourselves so exclusionary in the way of everyone has to kind of be categorized into these little boxes all the time. And I think that a lot of times young men, especially young white men, I feel like they feel like, okay, well, I don't really fit into any of these boxes. And if that's the case, then is there really a place for me here? And that's not to say we need to prioritize them, because we don't need to. We don't need to prioritize any one singular group when it comes to trying to win elections. We got to build a winning coalition. But I do think that we need to be a little bit less, all right, I'm going to talk to this group, so my message needs to be XYZ, and a little bit more, my message is XYZ, and every group's going to interpret it through their own cultural competency lens.
I can't tell you how much I agree. I'm so woke. Many people, not me, but many people say I'm the wokest white man in Gen Z. So when I see the Democratic Party completely leaving me out of pretty much every narrative, I'm personally like, okay, I still win. Like, I'm still a white man in America. Like, it pretty much doesn't get better than that. So if you guys want to like not market to me at all, that's fine. I know that I'm still going to be serviced the most by the systems that are in place. But when it comes to like vibiness and broiness being more important than talking about stuff like the economy, it just brings to mind how popular Bernie was with young men. I'm just like, Bernie Sanders wasn't fucking smoking cigars or drinking whiskey. He wasn't posting gym videos. He was being like an old fucking whiny Jew.
With young white guys, though.
He
was popular with young white guys.
But
I know he was.
No, but just white guys.
And question mark?
Yeah, but just young white guys.
But
Well, that's like one of the main things we're saying right now is that we need to reach young white guys.
What about young black and brown dudes? As I guess what I'm saying. Like that Bernie wasn't really crushing it there.
But I'm going to push back against it a little bit, Cameron, and say I think that the reason why is because Bernie's energy consistently is, I'm going to say whatever I want to whoever I want, whenever I want. And that's kind of like a, F you, I'm going to do what I want type of almost bro-y energy.
Well, I would love you to meet my co-host, Timothy Miller.
I'm a longtime fan of Tim Miller. Like, I can't tell you how many Tim Miller podcasts I've watched. And I agree. Of course. I agree with you.
Not surprising that she signs with me, Cameron. It's tough being right all the time on this podcast, when you're supposed to be the one bringing insight to me. And the opposite continues to happen. Can we make fun of the Republicans for a little while? We're too far. We've been in this for too long, obsessing over the left's myriad failures, and your failure as a cheerleader for the
Sorry, guys.
Democratic establishment.
My bad.
So, like, I guess let's tie it into the bro stuff. Like the immigration shit, it's interesting to me. I've seen 2 Joe Rogan clips where Rogan was talking about just like why he was pro-immigration reform and how he just doesn't think it's cool, like what we're doing to immigrants. And then the one from recently where he's talking about the gay hairdresser and how he was like, we shouldn't be snatching people off the street. Like, this dude seems like a makeup artist. Like, he doesn't seem like gang to me. Like, I don't know. And I don't know. And we're talking about also young black and brown men. I think that there are a lot of Democrats who are like, they should stay away from this issue. It's a winner for Trump. People want the tough border security stuff. But I don't know, man. The don't tread on me crowd, I feel like there's something here for the don't tread on me crowd. And I kind of liked Senator Padilla's energy on this. I wonder what you think. Both of you think about that.
I completely agree with you. I just wrote about this on my Substack, actually, where I talked about how the way that I see it is I think Democrats have a real opportunity here to take this narrative back. And what I say is secure the border, protect the dream. We should have a secure border, but we should also have a comprehensive path to immigration reform and citizenship, because that's what these bros want. Like, they want a border that's closed, but they also don't think we should be treating people terribly for the most part. And I think the Democrats have just run away from this issue because they're like, well, we're not going to out-Republican the Republicans on this. I don't want to out-Republican the Republicans on this because they just see this as a political football and a means to be cruel. And their own base, for the most part, doesn't even like what they're doing.
What'd you think about Padilla?
I love it. I thought it was fantastic. I think we need more Democrats doing stuff like that. I think that we are in an age now where politics, it is theater, it is a show, it is showing up and making your voice heard, even if it's inconvenient. And I think that we need more Democratic politicians who are more willing to do this kind of blunt, brash, in your face, I'm going to confront you and stand on business type of thing, because these little statements and resolutions and polite committee disagreements, it's not cutting it anymore. It's not working. They don't care. They're ignoring Supreme Court rulings. You think they give a shit about the statement that you're putting out on your Twitter that 100 people are going to see? No. Like, you got to show up and be about it and stand on business. And I think Alex Padilla did that. And I think we need more people who are willing to do stuff like that.
It just makes me think, like, there used to be a time when Republicans would do shit like a town hall. Like, my first kind of big viral moment after the shooting in Parkland was me ripping the shit out of little Marco Rubio at a CNN town hall in front of the world. And I was like telling him he reminded me of the shooter at my high school. And I was really just fucking rude. Oh, that was like ad hominem 101. But, you know, when someone just watched their friends die on video and you are a senator on the payroll of the lobby of the people who want to make sure as many 19-year-olds are allowed to buy those guns as possible, it's hard not to give a little shit for it.
Marco is also kidnapping people now, so maybe you just read him. Maybe it was a read.
I mean, I kind of looked him in the eye and I was like, this is somebody who is soulless, and a lot of Republicans that I've spoken to agree. There are some prominent voices in the Republican Party with whom I've talked about Marco Rubio, and they have been like, he is a snake grifter. And they know it, but they don't care, obviously. In the Republican Party, as it is right now, at least in MAGA world, like, they know who's a total, fucking freak, and they don't care as long as they're all serving the same agenda. But, if I was cooking Rubio, like, today, if Rubio was in, I feel like the Republicans would have sent somebody to tackle me on stage. Like, they don't engage with people anymore. Like, they can't take the smoke. And that was one of the main things I was saying after this thing with the senator happened. And he stood up and got fucking handcuffed and thrown to the ground for it. It's like, it's because they can't take the heat. If they had any ability to argue against stuff like what the senator was saying, if they had any valid points to make, they very likely would have made them. But there's nothing behind it. MAGA can't align on a lot of different issues. Like, I think the first example of them sort of eating each other alive, at least during this administration, was the H-1B visas, when everybody was the Republicans were all attacking each other on that. I think that was either like right before inauguration or right after, but then Elon came in and kind of ended that one. And now you've got Israel doing these attacks in Iran. Tim had a tweet about this. We could throw it up on the screen right now, where he saw Ben Shapiro and somebody else tweeting
Sager over at Breaking Points.
Yeah, tweeting completely opposite things about it. And that's happened a bunch of times now in New MAGA, is prominent voices from that crowd just not being able to catch up. The same thing happened with the Elon thing. Like, they didn't know how to align. And of course it doesn't matter. But I'm wondering, Olivia, right now, if you were the queen of the Democratic Party, you know, they say Trump is the king, no kings. If you're the queen of the Democratic Party, what is the issue you would have everybody align on right now? What would you make everybody immediately do? What would everybody say?
If I could like snap my fingers and everyone's aligned on one issue, immigration. 100% immigration. 100,000%. I don't think that there's any reason why we aren't aligned on this right now, because I think that there's already legislation out there that exists. Veronica Escobar and Maria something Salazar from Florida, they have the Dignity Act. It's a great bill that would create a pathway to citizenship for everyone, give protection to the dreamers and TPS recipients. I don't understand why we don't have every single Democrat sponsoring this bill right now. As a stepping
talk
stone,
about the popular parts of it and the masks. Like, nobody wants these fucking masked ICE thugs. It's not popular. And not when I say nobody, obviously, like, half of the MAGA base, which is, 20% of the country, which is way too many people. Millions of people are terrible. So, newsflash. But, like, 20% of the country are fucking sadists that love watching masked agents take brown people away. Like, unfortunately, that's just the reality that we live in. But that's, like, not a majority. Right?
No,
like just because you can definitely wedge out, to Cameron's point about how like there are fissures showing, in this area. Like, there are ways to do it.
Well, and I think it's the reason also I say it is I think you can see the narrative in the media is starting to change so much. Logan Paul's podcast partner, Mike, I don't know his last, I think it's Mike Majak. Like, these are guys who supported Trump, voted for Trump. Kim Kardashian supported Trump, voted for Trump. Ryan Garcia, UFC fighter, they have all put out statements condemning what is happening in Los Angeles from the immigration point. Like, we have mainstream influencers who never talk about politics making videos about this, saying this is wrong. And these are not just like libs, these are Republicans. And so if we have this much, I think this is the first time in a while the Democrats have actual capital on an issue that for every circumstance Trump should have a mandate on, because this is like the issue that people trusted them to fix more than us. This is where we need to show them we have serious solutions. Trump doesn't want to do anything but violate people's constitutional rights, and he is completely happy with everything that's going on right now.
We should.
And so I think you're 100% right
on that. Those boxer dudes coming out against us. That's good. That's a good. That's a good flag, Olivia. Okay, I got two things I have to ask you about before we go. I don't know what else Cameron's got. Do you have any Texas Senate takes? Blue Texas? Is there? I mean, they might nominate Ken Paxton. So I think the Democrats got to be fucking serious about this. About trying to come up with a way to win in Texas, and it's tough.
I love Colin Allred as a person. I think Colin Allred's a great man. I think if it had been a different electoral environment, I think he would have won that election. I think a matchup between him and Ken Paxton, he very well might. But that means the Texas Democrats would have to coalesce behind him, and I don't know if there's enough meat and bones substance for that. So I've also heard Tallarico's name floated around. I've heard Joaquin Castro's name floated around. I think we have a surplus of excellent candidates that could beat Ken Paxton.
I don't know about Joaquin Castro.
You're not a Castro head?
I'm not. Here's my issue. I don't care. I literally don't care who it is. Me and Cameron love Beto. Everybody knows that. I like Colin Allred. We've hung out. He's a cool dude. Whoever it is that runs, do not fucking run as a generic Democrat. You're not going to win. Even if they nominate Ken Paxton, it's still Texas. Like, you have to have some Olivia vibes. You got to punch at the left a little bit. I literally don't care what the issue is. You got to punch at the establishment Democrats. You got to be different. You got to stand out. If you just are like, if people look at you and they're like, oh, generic Democrat, they're going to vote against you, even if you're running against an insane person. I'm sorry. I wish that wasn't true, but it's still Texas.
It's true.
Cameron, you gave me a face. Was that wrong for you?
No, I was just like, You said you got to be a standard Democrat and punch against the left, and I was
No,
like,
you
that
don't.
is pretty.
Don't have to be a standard Democrat. You have to be different. You got to be different.
You
from
gotta
a
be like
conventional
Barbara
Democrat.
Jordan. People have to be. You need to be able to hold a gun and get on a motorcycle.
Yeah,
and
you
people
can be.
believe it.
You can be for socialized healthcare and a gun head. I don't care. You just got to be like people. Got to be like, oh, that person's fucking different. If you just run a generic Democratic politician, they've got no chance to win in Texas. They just got to be different. That's
I agree.
Point. Is that wrong for you, Cameron? You're still.
No, I'm with you right there.
At me. Oh, okay. All right. My other topic, Cameron, do you have any politics? Because I want to get personal really quick before we lose. Do you have any other politics things?
Yeah, my last thing, I guess, is, Olivia, right now, hate to put you on the spot, if you were to nominate 3 people for the 2028 Democratic ticket, who would those 3 be?
And Andy Bashir, Cory Booker, and Josh Shapiro.
Christ, change the subject immediately, Tim.
Okay, lame. Okay, TB to consider. Cameron, we got to be open to everybody's perspective. It's early, all right?
I'm sorry.
We
I
can't
really like Andy Bashir.
We can't be gatekeeping. We can't be gatekeeping people. And, we got to all stand together. No kings. We're all together for now. Right, Cameron?
Totally.
Okay. I'm asking you a question I could only ask on a podcast. It'd be rude to ask if we were in person.
Okay.
All right? So I just wanted to warn you about that. And I'm also going to continue to wind up by saying this. Like, there's certain things that you only experience that other people can't really get if they're not like you, right? And so I'm skinny just for no reason. Like, I didn't do anything. I don't fucking work out. I eat healthy because I like good food, but I didn't do it. Like, my whole family's skinny. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's hard for me to get a perspective of being attacked for my physical appearance. And so like being gay, sometimes people ask me about being gay, there's things that you just wouldn't know. Like, for example, one thing I brought up in my book that a lot of people mentioned, that they're like, oh, this would have never occurred to me, is I was like, you lie all the time when you're in the closet. Like, as a gay person, lying becomes very common to you, and that's something you've got to deprogram yourself about, because you're lying about obviously you're lying about your sexuality, but you're lying about whether you think somebody's hot or not. You're lying about what clothes, you know what I mean? You're just lying a lot when you're in the closet. So that was one thing I say to people. So I'm curious if there's something you've been going through all this, people going at you about being a big girl. I'm just wondering what that's been like, and if you have some perspective to shed on it.
Well, I dealt with it my whole life. When I was 12 years old, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so I've kind of had hormonal balances my entire life that have made it really difficult for me to lose weight. And I actually just now, it's actually so sad, but it ended up working out for the best. I got cyberbullied so severely after the DNC that I went to my doctor and I was like, give me the Ozempic now. Because I had type 2 diabetes. And so he did, and the combination of medication I'm on now, it genuinely has been so life-changing. I've lost 65 pounds since the DNC, and my health is just in great shape. And part of that is because of the cyberbullying. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. But a bigger part of it is just
Don't give those fucks credit. Don't give those fucks credit.
I'd be lying if I didn't say it was part of it, but I wasn't healthy. I physically wasn't healthy. I know what it's like to have my diabetes be out of control. The other thing is I just, I've kind of always had this weird academic validation niche where it's if you're attacking me for my looks, I very much feel like I'm winning because you can't attack me or debate me on the substance. And so every time I get, one of them talking shit about me being a big girl or whatever, I'm like, you're an idiot and you can't actually come back to anything I have to say. But also, in a twisted way, I kind of like it when they're mean to me about my looks, because then it gives me permission to be mean back. And I feel personally that there are a few people who are as good at being mean in the Democratic Party as I am.
Well, also, cyberbully comments are comments at the end of the day, which pushes you up in the algorithm. So they're helping you build your audience.
That too. Thanks, Matt Gaetz. Genuinely, thank you, Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz put my career on a trajectory it never would have gotten on if he hadn't targeted me. I thanked him for that in person. I shook his hand and said thank you. He was so pissed about it. He walked away. But like, it's the truth.
But does that make you feel bad or good? Not to. I gotta be my older brother. Tim is coming in. Like, does it make you feel bad or good about yourself to be mean to other people?
Tim, I feel good all the time because I'm on antipsychotics. But no, I mean,
Cameron can talk about that.
I'm only mean to people who I think deserve it. I'm actually a very nice person, a very sweet person, which surprises a lot of people. But I think some people, this might be the Texan in me. Some people you gotta be mean to, or they're not gonna get the message. But sometimes you gotta burn your hand on the stove to figure out that it's hot. And that's kind of where my mindset is at with politics and with these people who someone should bully them.
Olivia, thank you so much for giving us a phenomenal title for this episode. Olivia Julianna thanks Matt Gaetz. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you, Olivia, the pride of Needville. Appreciate you. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet
everybody.
you.
We will be back soon. We've got some very exciting things coming. Stay tuned, and we'll see you Monday.
See you Monday.